Very good. So, if you're pinning my face, Pedro, try to pin it so that it lifts the wrinkles, so I get a facelift. Oh, we don't want our Dharma to be too serious. Okay, so welcome everyone, and welcome to our translators to make this available in different languages. The topic for today is to look at the relation between dualistic consciousness and non-dual awareness. Although they function in different ways, they are two sides of the same coin. It is not that we have just one mind or many different minds, but that our mind is both the revealer and what is revealed. So we have our inner or more personal experiences like our thoughts, feelings, sensations, which other people can't access directly. And when we fixate on the content of the mind and understand it that in terms of something is happening to me, then this is the nature of dualistic consciousness. I am conscious that something is happening. I am conscious of something. That is to say, consciousness takes an object, it relies on the object. It arises in relation to the object. And non-dual awareness doesn't do this. So I'll try to make this as clear as possible. We ourselves have complex lives. The political situation is uncertain in many countries in the world, the economic situation as well. It seems obvious that the world is composed of friends and enemies. These, of course, are not pointing to fixed, enduring entities. When this new president gets in post in America, he will generate his own patterns of friends and enemies. And that will depend partly on his personality, partly on his advisors, partly on events. And this is just as the Buddha said, friends become enemies, enemies become friends. So the smaller countries are all trying to work out how should I be in order to be safe. We have to make some kind of guess at how the future will be. On that basis, some countries that had been neutral have decided to join NATO. That is to say, they're seeking to have powerful allies in case more trouble arises. So our basic question is, I am alive. How will I maintain my life? How will I make sure that my life is not too terrible? So say, for example, you're a child and you're going to school, but every day you get laughed at and bullied. And so as you go to school, you pick up a stone from the road and you keep it in your hand so you'll have a weapon in case someone attacks you. And then you see, oh, in front of me walking towards the school is a policeman. So I walk in behind them and I drop my stone. This is the basis of our Buddhist practice. We start by taking refuge. I take refuge in the Buddha police. They have some police in ordinary uniforms who smile a lot and who are quite friendly. And we have some police in their big conflict uniforms with shields and helmets, so they are our herukas. You know. So when we feel under attack in life, either uncertain or afraid or in real danger, then if we remember our refuge, if we remember Padmasambhava and Tara and all the different Buddhas, and maintain their presence with us as our own direct experience, then this protects us from leaping into anxious reactivity. We trust that we are safe. Samsara is like a nightmare. We find ourselves in life after life, born in a certain kind of body, facing particular kinds of environment. And in this situation, the relation between our embodied presence and our environment is always uncertain. It's influenced by the thoughts and behaviors of others. So, for example, in England, going back 50 years or so, there was a move to make bigger agricultural fields. So the hedges between many of the fields were torn up so that there could be just an open extension, which was good for mechanized farming, for the big combine harvesters that eat everything up very quickly. So this has economic advantages for farmers. They can rent the machines and they don't need to employ staff all year round. But the farmer's experience is not the only experience that's occurring. With the vanishing of the hedges, there is no place for the small birds to build their nests. And in these mounds between the fields, badgers could live there, but now there's no place for them. So this is our situation in samsara. We have access to the view from here. We don't have eyes in the back of our head. We don't see through 360 degrees. We see according to where we look from, which highlights some things and puts other factors which are there into the background. It's always like this. So when we take refuge in the Buddha, we take refuge in this presence or this awareness, which is not located inside a self-referential home base. The Buddha is present in an openness without limits. This is very different from our experience, because I like some things more than others. So for me, my attention is drawn towards what I like, moving with some interest and some hope that I will get access to what I take to be good. And I also pay attention to the things I don't like so much, so that I can minimize or avoid contact with them. So there we have the essence of our familiar three poisons. I am real, and everything around me is real. And my feelings that something is good gives me a true reading of its status. Just as when I feel that something is negative or not good, I take that feeling tone to be an accurate indicator of the true value of the object. That is to say, the vagaries, the happenstance changes of my likes and dislikes give rise to readings of the potential of my situation, which are specific to me now. I am unpredictable and unreliable. Now, if I say that in terms of the idea of being a person, then it doesn't sound very good, because we like people to be reliable. And we're willing to believe that things are reliable that are not reliable. Politicians, when they want to get elected, say, trust me. I speak the truth. Now, we are not entirely stupid, so we have some sense maybe this is not true. Yet somehow we feel we should vote. We vote with some ambivalence, and yet we have to somehow believe things can get better, because we have this idealized hope that there are some good people somewhere who will act honorably in favor of justice and so on. This is foolishness, because we see people change their minds. And I change my mind. I am not reliable, but I should be reliable. So I will reliably lie in order to pretend that I am reliable. And so life goes on. What's difficult is to recognize I am unreliable. That is to say, the ego ideal, or the notion of how I would like to be a good person, a kind person, a caring person, this image becomes so seductive to me that I pretend that I can fit into it. Because an image which is abstract can be maintained, because it is existing only in a mental sphere. The actual, the phenomenological, the how it is, how it comes, that is unreliable. So we chase an idea and hold on to the idea in the face of all the evidence. I exist. The core of me, the heart of me is permanent because I am myself. And yet the sensations in my body are always changing, my moods change, the memories which arise, the plans which suddenly activate me, none of these are precisely predictable. In the whole world, we talk of climate change, but it's difficult to precisely predict what will arise. So, in terms of feeling tones, in Buddhism, they often use these three simple categories: positive, neutral, and negative. And when we look, we can see that our cultures can make patterns of behavior, ways of thinking. Our cultures can allocate these patterns into categories which are not quite accurate. So if I say I am unreliable, that might be something to say to a friend in a cafe, but you shouldn't say it in a job interview, because they are looking for a particular shape, an image of how someone can perform. So in terms of the endless machine of commodity capitalism, to be unreliable is no good. We want to have reliable supply chains, whether that's of natural gas or fresh vegetables. But so much of what we encounter is not reliable. So actually, to be unreliable is the norm. It's the norm because it's how it is. But if we give it a negative flavor, then we don't want the normal to be normal. But luckily, due to our great power of imagination, we can believe that shit is chocolate. We can believe that the murderous dictator with the gulags and the concentration camps is the father of the nation. We make it up. So this is central for understanding how dualistic consciousness works. That I want to hang on to my imagination and deny the facts. If you smoke cigarettes, certainly in Britain, on the packet of the cigarette, they get increasingly horrifying pictures of cancerous tumors and so on. This cigarette is offering you nothing of value. It is not a means for maintaining health. If you're a smoker, you see this every time on your packet. But I smoke because I like smoking. So then we have these pathways or walls that we build in our mind so that we don't have to encounter the truths that would undermine our beliefs. So if we go back to the idea of refuge, generally in samsara, instead of taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, that is to say, the teacher, the teachings, and the people committed to following the teachings, instead of that, we take refuge in lying and self-deception. Because the story we tell when we make ourselves to be good people is very attractive to us. So in the center of London, we have the British Museum, which is full of objects taken from other countries, some taken with violence, some taken with bribes, some taken as the spoils of war. It's ours. No, but it's in the British Museum because it's British. It may have been made in Africa, but when it gets transferred to the British Museum, it's given a long lasting visa, and it gets a British citizenship. This is ours. No. Now there are many groups saying, no, you need to return these objects to the cultures that you took them from. So we can think logically, these were stolen. Many of these objects were stolen, in which case they cannot be truly ours. But we like them and we've had them for a long time. So it is as if they are truly ours. Therefore, we need to say, no, we're not returning this to you. So if we can see this, we see on a national level, on a gender level, on a age level, on a race level, there are all kinds of beliefs which people continue to hold, even although they are manifestly untrue. And in a sense, they're true because I assert that they are true. The items in the British Museum belong to the nation of Britain. The lie is comforting, the truth is unsettling. Oh. If we bring this a little bit closer to ourselves, I have the belief that I exist. I am me. I know that I am myself. I have always been myself. Here I am. Now, each time I say, here I am, the constituents of the patterning of what I take to be myself in this moment alters because I am unreliable. But I exist. My existence is reliable, although how I exist is unpredictable and unreliable. And this allows me to take I am and refine it into some metaphysical assertion. What is happening? That there is some ethereal, uh, spiritual, or ungraspable essence of me in terms of actual evidence. If I look at the performativity of myself, then there is not much similarity between my current performativity and how it was when I was 5 years of age. The kind of thoughts I had then, the kind of clothes I wore, the kind of activities I liked, the kind of language I used, all of that has been let go of, and I am arising as a new formation. And some of us have looked many times before. It is precisely because I am not a fixed entity that I can respond to the actual embodied presence of others. It is because my past is gone that I can be present. We have probably all experienced degrees of sadness or depression or anxiety or fearfulness. And in these states, we become preoccupied with the patterning of our experience. You might think, I don't like to be like this. Or even, I don't like myself when I am like this. And yet, this is what is arising. I am not the owner of myself. My selfing is not something which I do. So I might wake up in the morning and experience back pain. I don't want the back pain, but it's there. This is part of my experience. If I try to resist it and get rid of it, then I end up doing exercises or rubbing cream into my body and so on. I'm actually spending a lot of time with the pain. The pain came to me. I didn't order it. I don't want it. And yet it's me. Experiences like this are very precious if we want to practice Dharma, because they directly let us see the limitation and falsity of our omnipotent fantasies. It's my life. I'm going to live it in my way. But now I have back pain. How can that be possible? My life, I'm going to do what I want, but I have back pain. I'm not the boss. Now, very often when we cannot, due to the impact of the negative sensation, uh, when that's intense, I cannot maintain my sense that I'm in charge. Then it's very common to flip to the other extreme and become the victim. This is terrible. I don't know what to do. My life will never be good again. My future is terrible. Well, this arises because we take to be the sense of self as our true identity and as something which exists apart from the flow of experience. So we become isolated inside our small sphere of experience, but the experience is flowing. And it's flowing because there is a space for the arising and passing of experience. This space is my mind. But I have a sense of I exist, I am someone. I have my identity. Oh, let me tell you about myself. There are many stories I can tell you about me. These stories consolidate my sense of my own personal existence. I imagine we can all recognize ourselves in this. We talk of our childhood, our schooling, our colleagues, our hopes in falling in love, and so on. And we get a sense of our shape, how we fit into the patterning of the world. I am formulating myself and giving form to this. So this is what we encounter in the Buddha's early teachings, what we know now as the Theravada teachings, when he shows how our felt sense of being a person is in fact generated by the interaction of five factors. These are the five skandhas, or the five heaps, or the five constituents. We have form, which is shape and color. We have our organization of the most simple impacted feelings in terms of positive, neutral, and negative. Then we have perception. I see something, I hear something, I taste something. Something is occurring for me. Then, fourthly, we have associations in which the forming sense of ourself in this moment pulls in echoes and fantasies of other formations, which give it a kind of thickness or depth. So, for example, say I get a back pain. And then I remember, oh, my father, he had back pain. He had that for years. And then a thought comes, oh, maybe this is genetic. Oh, that means probably I'm stuck with this forever. So I'm making a composite. I'm taking these interpretations, these memories, these ideas, and bringing them together in a way that thickens and gives density and a kind of solidity of truth to my conclusion. And then the fifth of these constituent factors is consciousness. Consciousness means consciousness of something. So I'm conscious now of this elaborated story of the status and qualities of my back pain. I'm conscious that something is happening to me, for me, as me, and I don't like it. So this is how the isolated ego self is situated within the formative movement of these five tendencies. Sometimes we push against what seems to be an actual limitation in our life, and sometimes we just collapse into it. For example, when you're very small, maybe you quite like dancing around at home. But as you continue doing this in your primary school, you find people laugh at you a bit. And maybe they say, oh, you can't dance. Now, I want to avoid criticism. So the quick way to do that is to stop dancing. So it's not something I do, not something I like. Someone else might feel, well, fuck you. I'm going to dance, so I'm going to dance. You can say what you like. In that latter case, we might say, oh, that person has more self-belief. They're able to hold on to an idea of themselves even when other people disagree. So the key thing here is to see, oh, whether I dance a lot or don't dance a lot is led by the ideas that I give value to. So many traditional cultures would believe that anyone can dance, anyone can sing. What is dancing? It's moving your body. What is singing? It's moving your voice. So if some noise is coming out, oh, you're singing. There's no so-called objective criteria being applied to say, you're a terrible singer, please be quiet. That is to say, the space of the expansion of pursuing our experience and seeing where it goes, this space can be shrunk by strong determination and judgment coming from other people and then internalized coming from ourselves. The idea is a kind of vehicle which takes us on a journey through certain patternsing of experience. So we know this in terms of prejudice. In many countries in the world, it's still the case that when a baby is born and they look at the body and they see the nature of the genitals, they say, oh, it's another girl. And it may be very lovely to have this little girl in the house, but she's got to get married. And that will require a dowry. So you train girls with all these domestic skills and weaving and so on. And then they leave. They go to another house and give these skills in the other house. And you have to pay for them to take the girl. So this arises on the basis of believing in certain definitive ideas about what is a girl, what is a boy. And we see this in Afghanistan. With the defeat of the Taliban and the invasion with American soldiers, British, French, and so on, there was a period in which there was a big move to educate girls. So these people coming from other countries had the idea that gender identity is not something fixed. It's not determined by the shape of the genitals, but it's strongly influenced by cultural beliefs about what is the potential of this person. And so much energy and money and planning and new structures were brought into Afghanistan. And then the Taliban arrived back, and the Americans and the British ran away. And the girls in Afghanistan are left in this confusion. They have been told you can have your own life, you can be a doctor, you can be a singer. And suddenly, no, we have the truth about girls. They don't do any of these things. So in situations like this, we see directly the power of the idea. All ideas are potential. How they get activated, if they get activated, depends on the force or willpower which can be mobilized around them. Now, the power of these ideas comes because we want to have knowledge. And although the complexity of our interactions with our experiential field indicate again and again the world is unpredictable and I am unpredictable, because the implication of seeing this complexity is that I have to be mindful and attentive and sensitive and tender in how I relate to what's occurring. That's a lot of work. I have to develop these qualities. I have to be present, yet tolerate the fact I don't know. And so when I participate on the basis of, let's see. I'm working with the circumstances of the situation. This is a lot of work. Ongoing work. It doesn't stop because the situation is dynamic. However, how much easier to say girls should be kept at home. The function of women is to keep the house clean, to have food on the table, and to look after the babies. We know this. This is the definite truth. It's true on Monday and it's true on Friday. You see, do I want to be mindful and attentive and flexible and responsive, or should I just sit in my dogma? So what you see in world politics at the moment is powerful people bringing very strong definitions into the situation. So I know what women are for. It comes from our holy book, it comes from our cultural practice. So from the Buddhist point of view, this is a delusion. But it's very popular. Because just as we see with capitalist production, mass production lowers costs and increases profit. So that you get standard kinds of biscuits in the local shop. There are thousands of ways you can make biscuits, but in the local shop, they'll have 5 packets because it's efficient and for the production system. Girls don't need education. This is a belief or a dogma which is produced just like the biscuits. There are many factories which are devoted to the production of stupidity. See it everywhere. We are the best. We are better than you. If you disagree, we'll kill you. So this is the quality of mental dullness, of falling asleep inside assumptions and beliefs. And unfortunately, this is the way of proceeding which is most attractive to dualistic consciousness, because it's a simplification. It reduces the number of variables you have to work with. And this then brings simplicity and a kind of efficiency. So we see this being encouraged all the time, and especially in our own minds, that we want to believe something. From the Dharma point of view, belief is a substitute for awareness. Not very useful. In the 1930s, when the economies in Europe were not very strong, you could buy shoes where the sole of the shoe was made of cardboard. Leather is expensive. So better you put in layers of cardboard. They don't last very long, but you can put new paper into the shoe. So awareness is like good leather, and dogma and belief, they're like cardboard. Beliefs emerge in particular contexts, and they are expressing the view from here. They are not offering a panoramic vision, but a limited vision, which is polished and reinforced as if it was the definite truth of the situation. So what we see when we look at the five skandhas is that as we progress into the nature of consciousness, there is an investment in the idea that we can arrive at a reliable truth. And of course, if you have the assertion of a dogmatic truth, then anything which undermines the dogmatic truth is the enemy. And there we see the nature of conflict, of anger, aversion, hostility, and war. Because I speak the truth. And what you say is not in agreement with me. Therefore, you are wrong. Because it's very obvious. If I speak the truth and you say something different, you're not speaking the truth. And you see this everywhere with conflict, whether it's about electric cars or the import of fuel. These are battles of dogma. And this is held in place by dualistic consciousness. So we take a break now for half an hour, and then we come back and I look in a more precise way at the nature of consciousness. Okay, so see you in half an hour. Bye. Okay, so we're familiar with the idea of knowing things. As you progressed from being a baby to an infant to going to school, this progression was based on you being able to know more things, to recognize shapes in the world. But when we're very small and we're playing maybe with a kitten, maybe with some shells or something sitting on the floor, there's a simplicity to that knowing. As we develop in language, we can apply more signifiers to the simplicity of the knowing. And we start to be able to discriminate between different shades of red, different shades of blue. So there we have the perception of a ball. Say we have a ball and it's red. The small child is playing with the ball without knowing that it is red. The mother says, the ball is red. The mother is saying, you will get more from this object if you add meaning to the object. You say the ball is red. At first, the word red doesn't mean very much. Then you start to notice the pattern of the sound of the word and the shape that's in front of you and how they have some kind of connection. So I say the ball is red because the ball is red. What I say about the ball follows the truth of the ball. This is a lie. This is not accurate. Because here today we have different translators. And they are not saying the ball is red. They are saying something in Romanian or German or French. So we have to see here, this is like a magician's trick. It is as if the identification, the ball is red, is pointing to something inherent in the ball, when in fact it is an attribution. But because the ball is empty of inherent existence, I can put any interpretation into it. So in my hand, I have a revolver. You're all dead. This is a really good revolver because it always has bullets inside. I say it's a revolver. If we are children playing, we can all believe it is a revolver. So when I have this in my hand, you have to run and try and hide. We are entering into play. We are playing by imagining that what we imagine is true. Now, from the Buddhist point of view, this is the truth of everything. It's all attribution. There is no inherent existence in anything. The seeming fact of the continuing existence of something as what we take it to be arises for us because we pay attention to our cognition rather than to the phenomena. So this is my finger. It's not a gun, but it is a gun. That's just a shift of an interpretation. And if we can agree on a particular interpretation, we enter into the fabrication of this being the case, of this being how it is. So here we might start to be curious. Well, okay, what is the relation between seeing and knowing and imagining? I look at the red ball and I see. When I'm very small, I just see some shape with color. This is the first of the 5 skandhas. Form is described as being shape and color. Onto this, we add the sign, the identifier, ball, and then red ball. I am telling this seeming object, this thing which seems to exist by itself in the world, it's something which is there. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any red balls in my house because it's a long time since I played on the floor. So I am deprived of the opportunity of playing with the red ball. Now, if a small person came to my flat, we could play with their red ball, but I don't feel much motive to go all the way to the shops to buy a red ball. It's not an object which is sufficiently interesting for me to mobilize my energy to go and get one. It's just something in the world. Whereas small people are very interested to push it and see that it moves. And gradually, they get more and more confidence that how they name the object gives them access to the truth of the object. But what is there? There is a showing. The showing is coming towards me through my eyes. And I return, I enter into a conversation with what is occurring, and I say, this is a red ball. On the basis of receiving the visual impression, I fabricate or I create or I generate an interpretation which I can then apply. This is a red ball. The more I know that it is a red ball, And the years go by. The red ball is there in my bedroom, but I don't play with it so much. The interest or excitement that it can generate has gone down for me. How is that possible? If the ball was important and the small person is very clear, I need to take it with me when I go out. And yet, as time goes by, I have less and less identification with the red ball. I put myself into the red ball and then I take it out of the red ball. So we see that often with children, that they play with a toy for some months and then they don't touch it. And the parent says, "Oh, don't you want to play with that car anymore?" And the child looks at the parent like, "You don't get it. No, I'm not in that anymore. Somehow I have become unplugged from the object." So this is very helpful for us as meditators because I have invested importance in the car or the doll or the red ball, and now I'm not doing it. Now, I didn't do it originally out of a kind of intention. Oh, what shall I do? I think I will play with the red ball. I found myself wanting to hold this round thing in front of me. I invested it with importance, and now it is divested of that importance. But I didn't do this as a conscious gesture. I found myself flowing into this exciting round thing on the floor. And then after some time, I was flowing back into myself, and the ball became something ordinary and not very interesting. So, grammatically, we might say James likes the red ball. There is a person who likes to play with the red ball. So, this is the structure of what's called the three wheels. The subject, James, the object, red ball, and the connection between them, which in this case is likes. So when I like the red ball, I flow into it. My life energy goes into it and it shines. And then after some time, this flow of interest and identification and value is no longer flowing out into the red ball, but it goes somewhere else. Many of you will have heard the story of that even a dog's tooth will give out light if there is faith. If we believe that something is very important, then it becomes special for us. Just as in the medieval period, there were so many fragments of the true cross filling monasteries and churches in Europe that you could have built a house with it. Because it makes a church more attractive if it has a holy relic in it. It brings the numinous, the spiritual into the phenomenal realm. Because you might say, "Oh, dear Jesus, please take care of me." But this is a kind of idea. But if I can go to the church and I see the special box, the reliquary, where there is a piece of the true cross, and I bow and put my head on it, then I feel I'm in direct contact with a site of true value. And we see this principle in operation in many aspects of Tibetan Buddhism. People go on pilgrimage to Mount Kailash and going to a holy place. I want to receive the blessing of that holy place. What makes that place holy? Oh, don't you know? There's a whole story about Mount Kailash. At one time, Milarepa, he was over in this western Tibet near Mount Kailash. And there he met a Bompo practitioner. And they had a competition about who could go up Mount Kailash more quickly. Well, of course, Milarepa won because we listened to the Buddhist version of the story, not the Bonpo version. These are stories. And the stories are vehicles of identification. This operates because we imagine. For example, when I was in India, I heard about this place, Tsopema. This is a place where Padmasambhava was burnt alive because he had gone into the nunnery where Princess Mandarava was staying. And her father, the king, didn't like this, and so he told everyone in the land to bring some sticks and some oil, and they created a great pyre and set fire to Padmasambhava. And by his great spiritual power, he wasn't burnt at all, but turned the fire into a lake and was sitting there floating in the middle of a lotus. So this might be an interesting cultural story, or it might be the truth. Do you have faith? As the texts say, if you believe that the teacher is a Buddha, you get a Buddha's blessing. If you believe that the teacher is an old person, you get an old person's blessing. What this is saying is your mind is very important. Your mind is the center of the unfolding of the experience that arises for you. If you can see your own mind or open to your own mind, then you won't need to rely on stories. But as long as your experience is mediated through your interpretive cognitions, then the story, then it becomes very important which stories you believe in. So when you go to this place in Himachal Pradesh in India, get off the bus and you walk and you see the little lake. Nowadays, there are many monasteries around it and prayer flags everywhere, all of them saying Buddhist, Buddhist. But up on the hill above the lake, there is a Sikh Gurdwara. Up on the hill above the lake, there is a Sikh temple place. And they broadcast the recitation of the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh sacred book, because they say this is an important Sikh lake. And they have their story about it. Stories. We imagine stories. We imagine this is a red ball. We imagine this is a good person, this is a bad person. We can imagine this person is a freedom fighter, or this person is a terrorist. Depending on our imagining, our naming, our identification, we behave very differently. When we look at our own lives, we see how many experiences we've had, how many different ways of behaving we've manifested, and that no identificatory definition is going to gather all the aspects of ourselves. Oh, I can say, I am Scottish. What does this mean? It's a very thin identification because there are many different ways of being Scottish. I am a man. There are many ways to be a man. So we could say being a man, that's again very thin kind of definition. But if I'm living in a patriarchal culture, when I say I am a man, that is also asserting I am an important person, a special person. I should have access to better food, to more resources. So there we can see that even the thinnest definition or the thinnest signifier can situationally absorb other definitions. The world is interpretation. It doesn't mean that if I rename things, if I call an apple an orange, it will become an orange. Because in that case, the category of identification, apple or orange, can be applied fairly accurately because of the simplicity of what is being presented. But in terms of your identity as a person, there is no one word or one liner which can hold all of how you are. So when we tell stories, when we describe places or people or the history of a country, we are making a selection. We are highlighting certain factors and putting other factors into the darkness. So in terms of advertising, we say, come to Britain, visit the British Museum and see all these wonderful things. We don't say, oh, sorry, that's not a perfect definition. Come and see these wonderful things which we have successfully stolen. Great Britain, the land of professional thieves. We're not as good as it now as we once were because we stole America, Canada, Australia, India. These were ours. Now it's difficult even to hold on to having streets that don't have potholes everywhere. We've gone from rich to poor. All of this is stories. Stories are patterns of energy. They can inspire, they can depress, they can seem to open pathways or manifest as walls that we can't get through. So if we go back to the red ball, as the baby becomes an infant and starts to come into language, they learn to apply the word to the object and then develop the confidence that it is what I say it is. I see a red ball. This thing is a red ball. That is what it is. So now my mind, my interpretation, my formulation of what this is has become merged into the object. I have reified the object. I've turned it into a thing which seems to be self-existing. This thing, I know what it is. I'm not stupid. I know what it is. So I learned as a child that the sound red is applied to this color. And by believing this, I generate for myself the sense of definite knowledge. This is a red ball. This is my red ball. Don't touch it. I am the owner of this thing. And we know small children become very sensitive about what is theirs and what is not theirs, and they don't want people to play with their toys and so on. In the join between South America and North America, there are many, many people there from Argentina, Venezuela, Ecuador, and so on who are waiting. So they are waiting to get into North America so they can be American. Oh, very sadly, they are only South Americans. This is not so good. We want to be North Americans. But then we get a better passport. So all these people want to get this opportunity. And clearly, with the new president, this is going to be, again, a very big issue. Who is an authentic American? Do you have to be born in America? Or, according to some of the political groups, you have to be able to add value to American life. So if you are skilled in working with computers, we might give you a job. Now, if you are skilled at picking oranges, is that a sufficient task to allow you to be called American? The farmers are saying, we need people to do these tasks. The oranges don't go in the box by themselves. But these people who pick oranges, they are very ordinary people. We North Americans are special. So we have to be very careful. If you allow ordinary people to become special, well, then we'll have no boundaries left at all. So hopefully with this example, you can see the nature of storytelling. By defining the object, I gain power over the field of experience. I am the subject. All of these things are the object. And that at certain times in the history of many countries, people have also been the object as serfs, as slaves, and so on. And so, going back to dogma, if I become the dictator, I will be able to say what this ethnic group are allowed to do, what this religious group are allowed to do, and so on. So, in the Tibetan language, you have a basic verb, shepa, which means to know. And the word for consciousness is nampar shepa, which means to know shapes, to know formations, which easily becomes to know things. So on the border with Mexico, there are all kinds of guards and informers and so on. And even if the person from further south pays a lot of money to get smuggled across the border, the smuggler might take the money and then inform the police, so they get double pay. And so when the police come, they say, you are an illegal immigrant. For the person who is waiting there with a lot of fear and anxiety, their sense is, I am me, I'm just me. I'm from this village. I know about farming. I know many things. You are an illegal immigrant. So here we see the raw power of naming. Whatever qualities you have are irrelevant. The only important thing about you is that you are an illegal immigrant. So this is how dualistic consciousness operates. Things exist. Things can be named and defined because they exist. And I have the status and the power to be the one who defines. Now, the border police and the person who's trying to get into America, they each have 2 ears, 2 eyes, they walk and drink and piss. But only the policeman has the power to truly and effectively define the other. If the illegal immigrant says, that policeman beat me, who cares? What is that? You are nothing. You are nothing. There you see the power of the state, the power of the law being enacted as a protector of some and a punisher of others. North Americans are good, South Americans are bad. I define, I say. So this is a dreadful power, because there have been a lot of revolutionary struggles in South America. There have been a lot of dictatorships, and these have been battles over naming. So the guerrillas of the Shining Path, are they the good guys or the bad guys? It depends. Who has the power to define? This is how our mind is operating inside dualistic consciousness. I exist, you exist, we are connected. If I like you, I want to bring you closer to me. If I don't like you, I want to push you further away. This is resting on the fundamental belief: things exist, people exist, they are knowable and definable. From the Dharma point of view, this is a delusion. It doesn't mean that we don't experience colors and shapes and movements. But as we'll see in the afternoon when we start to look at awareness, our experience is dynamic and ceaseless. When we stay relaxed and open, we experience the flow of all the possibilities. But when we retreat into this castle of I, me, myself, I am important. Look, I exist. I'm someone. I should have dignity. You should respect me. You should take me seriously. That is to say, if we are going to be friends, you have to validate my existence. And if you act in a way that undermines my sense of who I am, then you become my enemy. In this, you could see this as the site of power. I exist. But actually, this is the site of vulnerability. Because how I am depends on circumstances. If you are sweet to me and say nice things to me, I relax. And if you insult me, I get a bit tense. I'm wondering, whoa, what's happening? This relationality arises because I don't have inherent existence. If I am truly confident in how I am, then what you make of me is not the key thing. But for our ego, trying to win approval, trying to win love, resources, means that I also know that some people will take what I have. My existence is my vulnerability. Because this finality of the process of the five skandhas is not self-existing. It is a compound, a construct. It is artificial, fabricated. And so it has fault lines. Everything which is made, like this laptop in front of me, has differentiation in its frame, and it would show me how I could attack it or break it. This laptop is very, very useful. And this tea in my cup is also very useful. Now we might think, oh, usefuls belong together. Computer, tea, pour the tea on the computer. Maybe it will help. Perhaps not. Because all compounded things are impermanent. My egoic formation, which includes my history, the work I've done, all the things which have flown through me, these are impermanent. Due to causes and conditions, I have written several books. And if I pick up one of these books and look at it, what I see is I couldn't write this now. This book emerged due to the alignment, the collaboration of many different factors. So while it's true that I wrote the book, I couldn't write the same book again, or even a book that was somewhat similar. The book occurred through me with the collaboration of other people, their interests, whoever developed the computers, and so on. So, from the egoic point of view, from the dualistic consciousness point of view, I wrote the book. I did this. But that I is out of date. The one who is here today, this I, could not write that book. So when I say I wrote that book, then you see how tricky, how cheating this little word I is. I wrote the book. Oh, wonderful me. Mama, I am your son. But I can't write the book. Somebody pretending to be me wrote the book. Maybe I was pretending to be that me. So now am I pretending to be this me? Wandering in this theater of samsara, merging into roles, de-rolling from the structures I operated in. So much has occurred. And so much of that I did not see because I was not open to how it is. Instead, I was fixated on the maintenance of my image of myself and the continuity of my story about who I am. So, dualistic consciousness means that the field of experience is split into these categories of self and other. I am not the other, I am self. I cannot gain integration with the other because I am self. To be self is not to be other. I have to be careful about how I allow other to be self. Whether this is happening on a national level, letting immigrants come into the country, or it could be happening on the level of diet, what foods I want to eat, or what political ideas I'm interested in, or what Dharma practice I do. In each of these situations, in order to maintain this formation or formulation of my sense of who I am, I present myself as a guard on the boundary of the territory of self. And of course, this is true. If I exist, and I exist inside a field of movement. As the Buddha pointed out, all compounded things are impermanent. I am the formation of the five skandhas. I am impermanent, but I feel like me. So I know, I hear that I am impermanent, but I don't feel that. I feel I'm going to live forever. I'm just me. So dualistic consciousness is always working very hard. I am influenced by what I meet, but at the same time, I'm asserting the reliable continuity of myself. So I'm like a crumbling castle. The roof leaks. The water in the well is drying up. So much of our life is devoted to self-maintenance, but this self cannot be maintained. I will die. This formation, with whatever skills I have, whatever knowledge I have, will dissolve like a cloud in the sky. What awoke this young Siddhartha was the sense of old age, sickness, and death. His father had created this pseudo paradise in which everything he wanted or needed was immediately there. But then, when Siddhartha saw this sick person, an old person, and a corpse, he thought, oh, this happens to them, this can happen to me. I mean, we would all like to believe that hospitals are for other people, cemeteries are for other people. These places have nothing to do with me. But when we see, oh, I was born a long time ago, this body will die, then maybe I could use my time in a better way than defending this edifice of the self. Maybe I could explore that if everything is truly impermanent, if it's right that I arise in relation with others, then my concept of who I am is inaccurate. So instead of assuming and instead of believing and instead of projecting meaning into appearances, maybe I could relax out of this defensive activity and allow the simple directness of our experience to arise and pass. It is by taking a holiday from self-maintenance that we really start to see, I am not who I think I am. The how of my life, the movement of these potentials, the patterns which emerge are not being done by me. So if I relax from my activity, I'll be less caught up in my ideas about what's important and what's not important. And I can start to be present with more and more of the field. That is to say, if I allow the dynamic self-dissolving nature of my experience, then the seduction of the notion of the truth of the view from here becomes less powerful. Normally, the view from here is what I think, what I believe, who I am. But staying relaxed and open, I see that these constituents of myself are dynamic and moving. They are not fixed. Nothing is established. This is potential. So the view from here is always going to change. The view from here doesn't tell me about me. It points to, in this moment, the possibility of communication, connectivity, kindness is just like this. And it's always changing. There is nowhere to rest for the ego. But awareness is always at rest. The ego self, the dualistic consciousness, is trying to make the impermanent permanent. And this is a never-ending task of infinite stupidity. So we want to see the cul-de-sac nature of the ego self and relax out into the open road of ceaseless unfolding, which is awareness. Okay, so we have a break now for an hour. I hope all is well. How are things with our Romanian translator? Is it good? Excellent. And Mustafa, how is the Turkish? Also good? Excellent. Okay, have a good break and we meet in an hour. Good. Okay. So we were looking at the nature of the compounded, the contrived, the artificial. And these are the markers of samsara. And the markers of nirvana or peace or freedom is uncontrived, unartificial. So, what does this mean? Because this is very important for us. We live in a world which is fixated on human activity and what we can achieve. That we can sort out so many problems in the world, huge developments in modern medicine, in engineering, in the development of artificial intelligence. And from the position of the ego, these are all great achievements. They seem to be revelations of how it is. From the Dzogchen point of view, these are revelations of what we have done. So the artificial is when I do something to something else. The subject acts on the object. Now, the uncontrived is not made by anyone or anything. It is not an existent. Not an existent. It means it doesn't exist. And we have to be very careful with Buddhist use of language here. It means if we say it doesn't exist or nothing exists, it means that no single entity can be found anywhere which exists solely on its own terms. So when I go outside in London, what I wear is determined by the weather. It would be a bit foolish to say, oh, what do I want to wear today? Because the air is cold and damp. I need to maintain the warmth in my body, and so I put on a heavy jacket. So although I say, this is my shirt, I wear my shirt according to circumstances. That is to say, it's not a kind of monologic, unitary decision. I am within the environment, or I am part of the environment. And even if I say self and other are separate, and I repeat this 100,000 times, the fact is, if I go out in my shirt, I get cold. There is no individual wrapper around me. So the delusion of the independent, autonomous ego wants to insist that I make my own decisions. And yet I have to operate within the environment. So, from the point of view of Dzogchen, don't start inside yourself. What do I want to wear today? Rather, we start with the environment. How is the weather? What do I have to do today? What is required? And then I manifest according to this shaping of the moment. That is to say, I wear my jacket because I feel cold. The jacket is an aspect of my participation in the world. It's an act of communication, an act of being with. Because if I have my warm jacket on, if I go for a walk, I feel okay in myself. I can see the trees, people, cars, and so on. I'm in the world with the world. That's very different from making and starting with my self decision. My body is not the boss of the temperature. I don't want to be cold. I can learn a yoga like a tumo and generate a sensation of heat, but that is something artificial. It is a method. If I apply the method, then I get warm. From the Dzogchen point of view, we should try to avoid using methods and antidotes and find the way to participate with the world. We want to have a two-way traffic, which means the world comes first. Now, this is difficult if we believe, as we were looking before the break, that I exist. I am me. I just am. That is empty. Because when the weather's cold, I get cold. I can't just say, don't feel cold. The cold arrives because it is what is all encompassing at the moment. So when the great Dzogchen teacher Namkhai Norbu said, working with circumstances, he was just repeating the usual instruction. Eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired. Go when you have to go. Sit when it's fine to sit. That our life doesn't need to be incredibly complicated if we stay in touch with the shaping of the mood around us. So in order to get the raw or the fresh or the uncooked feeling of how it is, we don't need any recipe book. Recipes tell you what you can do with the ingredients. That is the approach of dualistic consciousness. We're not trying to change the formations of the world, but to find a way of staying in touch with them, to find what is the potential. In Britain, we have some special mental health hospitals, which are like prisons. And people are sent there for two reasons. One is that they have committed a crime like murder. And secondly, they have a degree of mental disturbance, which means they both could commit further crimes and also not accept responsibility for what they have done. In these hospitals, there's a lot of group therapy. In the group, it has to be very patient because many of the people, they don't want to confess. Because if I say I have murdered someone, then the image of myself as a good person, a likable person, a worthwhile person is going to be a little bit collapsed. Well, this is our situation in the meditation. We have an image of ourselves. And this self-image involves quite a lot of editing and construction. So how can I be with all of me? With my experiences of being kind, supportive, helpful, and my acceptance that I have harmed people, I have made them unhappy. I am a site or a situation where kind, thoughtful connectivity can arise, but also selfish, self-absorbed formulations can arise. Both aspects are valid. Valid in the sense of they can be said about me because they are true. I let people down. I disappoint people. I'm not as available for some people as they would like me to be. And I'm concerned to get my wishes or my vision manifest. That is to say, in order to stay connected with the world, I need to be able to act mainly with the environment, but also on the environment in order to direct how things unfold. Now, in this situation, the corrupting force is to be self-referential towards one's self-image. Oh, just as we looked with the British Museum, we might want to think the British Museum is the glory of a great nation, but it's simultaneously a museum of criminal activity. Both are there. So, in terms of awareness or rigpa or intrinsic awareness has no agenda. It's not focused on doing anything or making anything. It's simply aware. So the word for this is yeshe. Ye means original. From the very beginning of time, from time out, time before time. That is to say, it is a knowing of the origin. And the origin is empty of inherent existence. It's not that samsara comes from somewhere and nirvana comes from somewhere. Neither samsara nor nirvana exist as entities there by themselves. So, simple knowing, like this small child with the red ball, the small baby knows but doesn't know what it knows. You can say that the baby is alive, it is present. It's present with what is arising for it. That is to say, the structure of dualistic consciousness which processes experience is not yet activated or is activated only very weakly. There is experience, and the baby is there with the experience. This experience is uncatchable, passing by, it's passing by. Experience is emergent, it's just arising. Sometimes it feels like emerging from me to you, or from you to me. But that is an interpretation. Actually, what is emerging is co-emergence. The field, all the things that I am in touch with, tables, chairs, shoes, and so on, and the memories of myself, my plans, all is arising here. Now, in order to appreciate this, we have to release our active interpretive capacity, release that so that we are available to receive as is. It's all at once. It's all together. I wake in the morning with the room. I awake with the body. So what is arising is subject and object arising together. Now, they haven't been glued together. It is that they are always together. Subjectivity, my felt sense of me existing and doing this and that, is not the same as awareness. I'm sitting in my chair at the moment. It's not so comfortable. One of my feet is a little sore. These sensations are with me, as is the laptop, my cup of tea, my watch, and so on. We're all together. Because of what is occurring, taking on its individual identity as a result of mental processing, I am telling these objects what their status is, and maybe it's wrong. It's an illusion. So, my watch, my precious watch, this precious watch is a site of collaboration. All the wheels and cogs inside work together. And this watch is a self-winding watch. That is to say, the movement of my body sets the little balance in the back moving, and that charges the spring. So the movement of the watch is dependent on gravity. So if I leave the watch on the table, it will go dead. If I wear it for a few hours every day, it keeps going by itself. The watch is in the world and requires communication with the world to come alive. So just as my movement, when the watch is on my arm, my movement is setting up this little weight inside the watch, which swings and recharges the energy. So my participation in the world with the various moves I make generate different patterns of energy. So this is a watch, a watch, a thing called a watch. But it's a useless thing in itself. It requires the communication with my arm as I'm walking and moving to come into life. In the same way, I have my glasses. My glasses facilitate the light which is coming towards my eyes becoming more harmonious with the capacity of my the lens in my eyeballs. That is to say, I put on my glasses, but it only functions when the light is coming. Light is movement. Sound is movement. The movement of my body, which energizes the watch, is movement. So when we look in terms of dualistic consciousness, we are concerned with the quality of things. We're trying to establish what is this. Whereas with this original knowing or primordial knowing, this is the awareness which attends to the integrity of stillness and movement. When we sit, all kinds of thoughts and feelings and memories can arise. My mind is movement. But these movements are arising and passing. They don't arrive anywhere. They don't actually come from anywhere. They are like the wind moving in the sky. The changes in air pressure cause a movement of the air, which we experience as wind. Now, it's not just that there are thoughts and memories and so on, but I am aware of them. Or rather, awareness of the open field reveals my presence or my existence, my embodied movement in this field of movement. So to say this in a more simple way, dualistic consciousness is concerned with things which exist, which can be defined, and which can be made use of. Whereas awareness is aware that there is nothing to grasp. There are no entities, no appearances which have enduring existence. So here we are connected through this internet system. There's my speaking, the different translators, translations, the sound going out to you. So what we have is patterning of shapes. These shapes are like the shapes in a kaleidoscope. With a child's toy, as you turn the barrel of the kaleidoscope, these pieces of colored glass tumble down and are reflected out in different patterns. Nothing is established in the kaleidoscope. That is to say, there are patterns, but they're quite complex. And we don't have particular words which would capture this specific patterning. That is to say, we're looking at something which we can't fit into our interpretive matrix. If I'm positioned in myself as a dualistic consciousness, then as we looked earlier, my concern is, can I get more of what I like and less of what I don't like? And we're very, very familiar with this way of operating. Things exist, things have different qualities. I like some things more than others. That is an interpretation. As many of you are aware, when we look at the different styles of meditation, they're structured around the view, the meditation, the activity, and the result. So in the general view of samsara, I see real things. Now, the view is established through axioms and assumptions. Believing that real entities exist, I perceive real entities. So I'm looking at the screen. primarily I see the face of Robert, who is translating into German. So from the dualistic point of view, I have met Robert many times. And I recognize, oh, this is Robert. But what am I experiencing? As I look at the screen, light is coming into my eyes. And the pattern is shifting. And the sound is coming. And sometimes it's louder, sometimes softer. I hear sound. Because I don't know German, I just hear sound. I hear sound that for me is meaningless because I cannot put the meaning into the sound. If you know German, then when you hear it, it's obvious that the sound is the bearer of the meaning. Now, if that was really true, then I also would know German, because the sound of German would carry the meaning of German. But the sound just carries itself. The sound is naked. It's not covered by associations and interpretations. So this is for meditators, this is very important. Because if you know one of the languages that we have translation for here, when you hear the translator, they are talking sense. It's obvious that the sense is in the words, but this is senseless because I don't understand Portuguese. So Portuguese is like some secret society. It's like with some of these Masonic groups and so on, they have special handshakes. And they give you access to secret meanings. So these people who speak Portuguese, a little bit dangerous. They are planning world domination. Deep in the forests of the Amazon, they are speaking and speaking and speaking, and they're going to send out rays of Portuguese to contaminate everyone. This is what Donald Trump would call the deep state of Portuguese. There is no meaning in language except from the meaning you put into language. It's a convention. So I don't have gold in my pockets, but I have some notes. Like this is a 20-pound note. It's an English banknote, so it's made of plastic for some peculiar reason. Where is the value of the banknote? Is it in the plastic or in our conventional belief, our shared agreement? This is a 20-pound note. That is to say, we have a consensus, we have a general cultural agreement that this is a note of 20 pounds value, which should be respected in different shops and so on. The meaning of the value rests in the agreement of minds. In wars, people do bad things. In the Second World War, there were many murderous actions carried out against minorities because the members of the party knew the precise status of these minority people. They had the confidence to know that gypsies are inferior. And so killing gypsies is a good activity because we don't need these lesser people. After the war, it was very difficult to find any Germans who really believed that the gypsies were inferior. It was like like some kind of gas released in a swamp, and everybody became a bit intoxicated by these ideas, which ran for 6, 7 years and then vanished. We all know this. We all know it's true, these gypsies are inferior. And then at the end of the war, nobody knows this about gypsies. Oh, this is terrible. How did this happen to you? So this is the nature of these beliefs, like the murder and rape of the tribal people in so many jungle areas in the world. To be powerless is to be denied the right to define yourself. Then you are defined by someone else. Oh, you become enslaved, or you're sent to some missionary school to wash your own culture out of you because other people know what's best for you. So we have a lot of experience of the power of ideas being injected into the object. In this world, in samsara, knowing something is powerful. Knowing nothing is not powerful. So people might say, oh, you should try to see the Karmapa. He really knows nothing. He knows the real nothing that you have to spell with a capital N, the big nothing. But that only has currency because there's a culture which believes that nothing can also be a commodity. If you study nothing to find something, you will not find something, but you will be able to fabricate something. This is the very highest teaching of the Buddha. This is a very rare and precious transmission. So now we're putting our hands together and bowing very much. Please give me this real truth. Then you hear some Tibetan and bells ringing and so on. What did you get? I don't know. Nothing. But was it the real nothing? Don't accept any inferior nothings. So now we have a hierarchy of nothing. So this knowing of the source or primordial knowing is knowing nothing, the nothing which never becomes something. In dualistic consciousness, we know something which is held to be other than nothing. That is to say, we know things which seem to exist in themselves. And that's the duality, that nothing is not the same as something. Something is not the same as nothing. These categories are mutually exclusive. Now, with Yeshe or Rigpa or awareness or primordial knowing, what we know is something which is nothing. This is what we describe as illusion. We say it's like a mirage. The mirage looks like water, but there is no water there. When you see the water on the road, you drive through it, you don't hit any water. It is as if nothing is something. It does not truly become something. It is an unborn appearance which appears to be born. So, traditional example is the mirror. You look in the mirror, you see yourself, but you're not in the mirror, but you appear in the mirror. It is as if you are in the mirror. See the details of your eyebrows and the shape of your nose and so on. This is how I am. This is me. But it's an illusion. It's a mere appearance. it has no substance to it. It is my belief that makes it something. So in the Dzogchen practice, we stay relaxed and open with the arising of whatever occurs, and we maintain the balance which is between the polarities of existing and non-existing. When you're sitting in your practice, what occurs is not something. It doesn't exist. You can't put it in your pocket. And yet there is an occurrence. Something occurs which is not existing. But you can't say it's completely non-existence because something occurred. It's not either or. It's not about binary opposition, setting this against that. It's about both and. My mind is empty and it is full. When I sit and I look for my mind and I look, does it have shape or color? Does it have size? I can't find any permanent or enduring characteristics that would help me to define my mind as something. But at the same time, these appearances keep coming. So in the text, it often says of the mind that it is unborn and unstopped. The flow of thoughts is not not often in a straight line. It goes with all kind of bends and curves and has a very zigzaggy course. So at this point, it's very important with that we think, okay, it is as it is. It's weird. It's strange. It's unfamiliar. Now, the unfamiliar can be a cause of anxiety, but the unfamiliar is also an invitation not to project my familiarizing interpretation and pull the experience into the realm of the known. There is knowing going on. That is to say, I'm not asleep, I'm not dead, I am present with the presence of these events. I know patterns, but I don't know things. That is to say, the diversity of appearance is ceaseless. It's endlessly changing patterns. These are not the patterns of something. These are the patterns of nothing. When you look at a mirror, it's actually quite flat. It doesn't have a big box behind it full of images that it pushes out to the surface. There's no substance behind or within the appearances in the mirror. All of these patterns arise, but are unborn. Even if you go to a hospital and you get the most experienced midwife, she will not be able to get the image in the mirror to be born. When you look in the mirror, you see something which is nothing. It's not nothing at all as a nihilistic oblivion, but it is the nothingness of something. All somethings are nothing because they have not been born into autonomous existence. My existence as me is dependent on the temperature, food, clothing, no accidents, and so on. My life is not contained inside my skin bag. I manifest in the world of appearances as an appearance. I'm appearing for you through this camera in the laptop. And similarly, I'm appearing for me. I don't have access to the image of me that you have coming through the camera, but I have access to the sensation in my body, which you don't have access to. That is to say, our experience is unique, specific, and diverse. Even when we imagine that the object is fixed and defined, when each of us encounter that object, we have different reactions. That is to say, as long as I take myself to be experiencing something, that something is my own mental activity. I'm experiencing the movement of my mind as other. Or to put it another way, what I take to be self, what I take to be other, are both manifestations of movement of mind. Now, it's very important to see that we don't have two minds. We don't have a pure original mind and a contaminated samsaric mind. It's not that we've lost the original nature of the mind. This cannot be lost, but it can be obscured for us by our own activity. When I was a child, one of the things I liked to do with my friends was we would go into a field near the house and we would start to spin around faster and faster. And then you suddenly stop. And it's as if everything is moving. This was great fun. This is our mind. We're caught up in the movement. Something is happening. I want to make something happen. This is always the view from dualistic consciousness. But who was spinning? I was spinning. Why? Because it's Saturday afternoon, we've nothing to do. We're small children, we don't have any money, so we go to the field and roll around. Either we roll down the hill or we spin. And why do we do this? Because somebody suggested the idea of spinning. So we pour our potential into the game of spinning. Following the thought of spinning, the body is moving, and then we have all these strange sensations. Oh, if somebody said to you now, okay, let's spin, you might be thinking, but why? Why would I do that? Generally, children don't question such an exciting invitation. We spin. That is, we pour ourselves into the idea. We identify with the arising as if the arising had a truth about ourselves. Now, why are you spinning? Because it's fun. Because we want to. It's what we do. It's very difficult to give a very logical reason for spinning. We just do it. And what did you get out of it? You feel a bit funny for a while. And then we do something else. What we experience there is nothing is established, but there is a process. So if we see the process of I'm joining the spinning, that is to say, the idea of me and the idea of spinning come together, then we have movement in the field of movement. This is more about surrender or volunteering rather than agency. I am an occurrence within my mind. So that's what we want to look at. We'll take a break now and we'll come back and look. How do we experience that I am a movement within my mind? Okay, good. So we have a break and then we have our final session. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. Oh, I am a movement within my mind. This is where we see my mind is like space. When I look for the true shape of my mind, for its substance, I can't find anything. So I'm in London. And if I think, oh, I'll go down to the coast, I'll go to Brighton, that's about 150 miles, that's far away. But when we're just here, we think, oh, I wonder what the weather is like in New York. Perhaps it's snowing. You imagine the snow blowing out over the sea. And then you could imagine going up north to Canada, going down to the south to beautiful Brazil. Oh, my mind can travel so far, so fast. The truth about Brazil is that it exists as an experience in my mind. There is no Brazil. Brazil is born through my participation in the idea of Brazil. All the thoughts, whether you might say accurate or fantastical, which arise in my mind about Brazil, generate my Brazil. Brazil is a potential, and this potential reveals itself in the unique specificity of the moment of my participation. That is to say, the actuality or the truth or the immediacy or the undeniableness of Brazil is a quality of the mind. How I participate is my Brazil. Now, of course, you have a theoretical Brazil. You can buy books on the history of Brazil, the geography of Brazil. You can learn about Brazil. But the Brazil you learn about is an abstraction. It is not the actual. Because when we have all these facts from our big books about Brazil, where does that exist? It's an idea in my mind. If I fly to Brazil and I'm walking down the street in Brazil, then this person's shape is my Brazil. This dog's tail wagging in front of me is my Brazil. That is to say, Brazil for me is the unique specificity of this revelation. So if you follow this, only I see my Brazil. And only I see this moment of my Brazil, and this moment will never be repeated. This is the immediacy of our life in the senses. And even if I have read 100 books on Brazil, I do not know what will be occurring on the main streets of Sao Paulo. So it's very helpful if you're practicing Dzogchen to really become clear about the difference between the actual and the abstracted. The abstraction is my idea about something. It is an idea that remains in my mind but doesn't come out. So if I go out and I'm walking down the street, there is the immediacy of the revelation of what is occurring. Whether I'm in a hurry or not, whether I feel healthy or not, whether I feel happy or not, all of these factors are promotional factors which feed the revelation of this experience of being in London. So I think it's very important, if you're interested, to investigate this again and again. Go for a walk, or you make a cup of tea. And attend to the details of how you are when you make the cup of tea. Because how you're turning to pour the water into the cup will depend on your posture, whether your hips are loose or not, how your spine is. Now, the specific diversity of this moment, its unique constellation, cannot be repeated. As I'm making the tea, thoughts and feelings and sensations are in my body. Sounds of people talking from the street are coming in. My arm is a bit tired because I was writing earlier, and so on. This patterning of manifesting factors is unrepeatable. It's ungraspable. That is to say, the freshness of my life is fully revealed through me, as me, with all of this. I get it all, and I get nothing. However, if I can turn it into a story about what I am doing, I give a commentary on what I am doing. So I say I'm going to use some tea from Kenya. It has a nice strong flavor. What is Kenya? It's a word. It's a word that stands for a place, but I'm not in that place. So all the details of Kenya is reduced to my idea about Kenya. What is Kenya? It's where my tea came from. Wonderful. Now I know what is Kenya. What are the gypsies? Troublemakers. Oh, good. What are the Palestinians? Troublemakers. Oh, good. The world revealed through reified conceptualization is delusion. So abstractions which allow us to make generalized comments are never accurate. Men are like this. Women are like this. Scottish people are like this. Every culture has many ways of expressing these totalized conclusions. I know what this is. I know what these people are like. So this is the discourse of dualistic consciousness. It generates the delusion that there are actual real entities there which can be owned or manipulated. So the new president of America, North America, wants to buy Greenland. There are people living in Greenland. They say, it's our country. We know the rocks and the stones and where to fish and so on. And Mr. Trump says, we in North America need to have Greenland for our strategic interests. It will be helpful for us to have Greenland, and we're big and powerful. Therefore, we should have Greenland. Oh, that's very simple and obvious. So this is, here you see the raw energy of the ego. The ego is a bully, trying to coerce the shape of the world to fit into our template. Oh, maybe I go to Greenland and I meet someone living in Greenland. And I ask them, are you a Greenlander? They say yes. I say, good, I know all about you because I have studied the anthropology of Greenland. I know the diet of Greenland people. I know how you make your clothes. Actually, I don't need to talk to you because I already know about Greenland. So this is the big difference. This is why sorry, on you go. Like with the destruction of the Amazon rainforest, we know what is important. Cut down the trees, plant commercial crops that we can sell, and develop our country. We need to develop it into a modern desert. We have big empty spaces now, nothing is growing there. This is very good. And this is the stupid thinking which arises from knowing about something. But when you go into a situation and you see how fragile is the life situation of many tribal people, and each of these people has their own unique life. You can see videos of a group of people from a tribe dancing together. They are dancing the same dance, but they are each dancing that dance for them as them. They are not homogenized. They are not made in a factory. There is a unique specificity to how they manifest. So, in Buddhism, when we read about compassion and kindness, what it means is don't fall asleep in abstract identifications in the belief that you really know what other people are. When we pay attention to the unique specificity of a tree, for example, say, if you were in Europe, say an oak tree, and you look at this oak tree, you could extract from it general principles concerning oak trees. And in order to do that, you need to not pay fully generous attention to this tree with this bark, with these patterns, and this stump where a branch got knocked off in the storm. This tree is ungraspable. When we say it is an oak tree, it is as if the statement, it is an oak tree, brings us close to the tree itself, but actually it hides the tree. When you relax in the out breath and you stand with the oak tree and you feel the bark of the tree and you're breathing slowly out and in, absorbing the detail, more and more of the potential of the tree is being revealed to you. And paradoxically, the less you can say about it. There is so much detail, so much unique specificity. Just this, you can't grasp it. What we grasp are abstractions. So in the text, you read again and again about Dzogchen. So Dag means thing or self, and you grasp the thing. But more specifically, it means Dag is the existence of the thing. The thing as entity, which means you can apprehend it, you can take hold of it. So if I say, I exist, this is something we can all say, I exist. We have our ears, our nose, we're sitting, we talk, I exist. But the specificity of your presence, your manifestation, is not caught in the idea I exist. Because how do you exist? Well, it depends. Sometimes I have a lot of energy, sometimes not. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad. All I can say is, let's see. I can't catch myself. I can't tell you the truth about me. I don't know the truth about gypsies. I don't know the truth about other people. None of these ideas arrive exactly on the point of the manifestation of the person. So, unborn awareness is open to the process, the becoming of the many different forms of the potential of the mind itself. We don't know how we will be. We have to be present with ourselves. We are emergent, and our emergence is co-emergent with the field within which we find ourselves. So if you stay with the actual, the immediate, you find that it is beyond definition, beyond appropriation. So this original knowing, which is the knowing of the ground, is the being present with unlimited, infinite emptiness and all which manifests within it. So just in our little meeting today, we have covered many different things. We've looked at many different metaphors or symbols. Some of these might speak to you, others don't make much sense. The key thing is to soften the hardness, the sclerosis, the shell of knowledge, so that we maintain this soft and tender skin, this surface that allows us to participate in the world with articulated, attuned nuance. Awareness is not thinking about anything, but within the luminous open arena of awareness or presence, thoughts arise. Thoughts about what seems to be the past or the future, thoughts about ourselves that make us feel good or bad, thoughts about others which make us feel happy or sad. And each of these is arising and vanishing, arising and vanishing. So for our practice, we do 3R Guru Yoga, and we're sitting in a relaxed way. Experience keeps flowing on. Now, part of doing the 3R is to release ourselves from the conceptual matrix we normally inhabit, so that as experience arises, our need to organize this experience and to work out what is best in it for us, this starts to dissolve. So in the general Buddhist teachings, they say you should adopt and develop the good, the compassionate, and you should discard, free yourself from the negative. So this gives us something to do. Because within the frame of samsara, where we compare this and that, it seems obvious that happiness is better than sorrow. So we should make sure we get happiness, and avoid sorrow. And if we have a very strong idea, we might say, I want all the happiness for me and my group, and I give all the suffering to other people. I care about my people. I don't care about my enemies. So there, I'm fully in duality. And I can sort all people, all animals, all insects into friend or enemy. And I want closeness to friends and distance from enemies. So this is the very limited view, which rests on the seeming reality of my ego self. However, even in general Buddhism, we study the four immeasurables. May all beings be happy and have the root of happiness. This is seen, this aspiration is seen as the definition of love. Love means I want everyone to be happy and to have the basis of happiness. Then we say, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and the root of suffering. This is for all beings. The beings I like, beings I don't like. I don't want anyone to suffer. I don't want anyone to be punished. Punishing people, making them feel pain and humiliation is not likely to open their heart. At the moment, there are many wars raging. And in all of these wars, the basic structure is if we kill all our enemies, we will be happy and safe. Now, the National Socialists strongly established this view in the Second World War. They called it the final solution. If we get rid of all the bad people, then there'll only be good people, and we are good people, so we'll be happy. Unfortunately, in the process of getting rid of the bad people, I become a bad person. I become a murderer. So now I have my history of killing, my history of exploitation, my history of not being touched by the tears of others. This is not the royal road to Buddhahood. This is the road to becoming a demon. And modern nation states are very devoted to the idea of killing the bad. There is the enemy without, the strangers, and the enemy within, the betrayers, those who don't support the party. You know this. You've read papers, you've seen movies. These positions start from a definition. I know who is good and I know who is bad. This is the demonic shadow of dualistic consciousness. So in the four immeasurables, the third is to say, may all beings have the unalloyed, the unmixed happiness, the pure happiness, which is never contaminated or diminished. Now, this is hard. I wish my enemies to be truly happy. Why would I do this? Because the Buddha nature is intrinsic. But the identity of being my enemy, this is conventional and situational. It is not true. It is simply an off-balance positioning of the vectors of power and identity. So I can wish happiness for my group or for everyone. So the fourth of the immeasurables is may we all rest in the great evenness or balance or equanimity, free of favoring my friends, and acting against my enemies. That is to say, I'm going to look deeply, deeply, deeply and see that, as the Buddha says, friends become enemies, enemies become friends. There is no essential basis for these identifications. These are situational evaluations mediated through the prism of reified judgment. I want everyone to be happy. Oh, these four simple orientations are very helpful for Dzogchen practice because they are like a stick that stirs the bottom of the pond. All the worms and old leaves come up to the surface. Maybe we remember the history of the last 100 years and which countries our country has been fighting with. Or we remember being enslaved or tortured. Bad things have been done to me. Who did these bad things? Bad people? This is a little bit tricky. Generally, we say negative experiences arise as the fruit of my own karma. If I believe that other people are truly different from me and that I am existing as myself, then I will necessarily have different evaluations of other people. Because as an isolated ego self, me being me is an end in itself. But you, for me, are a means to an end. You should give me the things I want, make me happy, don't make me afraid. You have a function, and your function for me is to maintain me as a happy person. So I want things. Maybe I want to eat bananas. Bananas grow in areas where there's a lot of heat and humidity. And I have to catch the banana tree at the right time and chop it with my machete and so on. I wouldn't like to do that work, but I would like to eat bananas. Bananas are self-existing. They're amazing. You find them on this shelf in the supermarket. So in this way, I can protect myself from the sense that people do very difficult, hard physical work in areas where there are many insects and scorpions and so on, and are not paid very much money. And just like small children tend to take their parents for granted, mom cooks. That's what she does. Why would I thank mama for cooking? Because cooking is what she does. Oh, similarly, why would I thank people in the banana plantation from growing the bananas? I can't take them for granted. They just do it because that's what they do. So there is no need for me to feel gratitude. With that, I can take my scissors and cut the chain of cause and effect. Again, in general Buddhism, we take up the idea that we have been born many, many times. And in all these lives, we had a mother. And our mothers did many, many things for us. So I am linked to all sentient beings through my debt of gratitude for the kindness they have shown me. So when we meet sentient beings, frogs or dogs or birds, humans, our starting position should be gratitude. Thank you. I owe you. So even if I am generous and kind, that's not because I am a wonderful person and so generous. From this Mahayana point of view, I am kind because I am repaying my debt to you. I'm starting from a one down position. So in some of the Mahayana schools, they say, give victory to the other. Let the other win. Now, you can see the difficulty with this, because if we're trying to fine tune how we are with other people in terms of the specificity of how they are, it can become quite artificial, quite intentionally adjusted. So in Dzogchen, we don't start from the position of being a sentient being. Our view is we start from the position, from the very beginning, the ground has been open and empty, pure and uncontaminated. The ground is not some factory someplace. It is the ungraspable openness of our mind, not our ego self, not our mind with its familiar content, but the mind itself, the basis of our awareness. So within this openness, there is movement. The self-arising and self-dissolving of thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories. There are these occurrences and they're gone. Occurring, vanishing. As the wave arises in the ocean, it appears, and the very movement of its appearing is also the movement of its dissolving. Relaxed and open, experience is occurring. I don't need to be involved. I don't need to select, because everything is good. So we know the name of our foundational Buddha is Kuntuzangpo, always good. And the texts say that if you go to a land where everything is gold, all you will find is gold. If you go to the land of emptiness, if you open yourself to the unborn ground of all experience, everything you experience is open and empty. Open here means that it's not contained in a frame or a box or held in place by a definition. Today, while we've been connecting around Dharma in this way, we have each experienced thousands of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. They arise and they pass. They don't establish anything. Because we know they are going to vanish, we don't need to get agitated. They offer a lot because there's ceaseless experience, but these experiences cannot be got. They're not things. Oh, I have some herb tea here, and when I sip it, there's some taste in my mouth. There's some flavor of turmeric in it. It's a yellow root they use in Indian cooking a lot. A bit like ginger. But anyway, I can't catch that flavor. I receive it, it fills my mouth, but to say, oh, maybe it has this flavor or that flavor, doesn't help, doesn't do anything. Because if I try to define the value, I lose the value. The value or the immediacy or the phenomena themselves, they are not abstractions, they are ungraspable revelation. So in the Tibetan tradition, they say ngowo tongpa. Ngowo means the essence or the truth or the actuality, and the actuality of everything is empty. There's nothing to get. Then secondly, say Rangshin Salwa. Rangshin means the quality or the showing of this emptiness is clarity. The clarity here means a kind of luminosity or showing or just here-ness. So, for example, when I sip this tea, there is something revealed in my mouth. It is showing, it is, if you like, luminous, it's self-displaying, but I can't get it. It's not a thing. I'm filled with the expressiveness of no thingness. And then thirdly, they say Tuji Kunkyap. Tuji means like a kindness or compassion or relatedness or non-duality. And the second phrase, Kunkyap, means all-pervading. There is no limit to the possibilities of participation. There is always a way to be. So as we go into the world, we put on our shoes, we put on clothes, we go outside, we go to shops or whatever. Each moment of this participation is unisolated. Okay, so I am walking to the shops. I am here. I decide I need to get some milk. I will go to the shop. Who is going to the shops? I am. So there, that's an explanation based on I exist, I have a need for milk, I am going to get milk. Well, I look in the fridge, I lift the container for the milk, it's almost empty. I look at my watch and see if the shops will close soon. I move. I move because a need for milk and the shops will close. So James to the world, the great master James is going to get milk. Or James like a bull in the field with a big ring in his nose. And there's a rope attached to this ring. And tugging on the rope is milk, milk. And tugging also is shop, shop. And tired old bullock, lo, is marching up the hill. So in any situation, you can read it as subject to object, or as object to subject, or as co-emergent. So in Dzogchen, we are concerned with the third reading, with the co-emergence. I'm in the world. I'm working with the world, working with the energy of the world. So I want to collaborate with the energy of the world, which means I don't start from inside me. I start at the junction of self and other, which is the point of co-emergence. Self and other arise always within the here and now. If we release ourselves from the delusion of the three times of past, present, and future, and we relax into the immediacy of here, now, what is arising here and now is this. And I find myself going to get milk. The object side shop, the subject side wanting milk are arising in the only place they can ever arise, which is here and now. The past is gone. The future hasn't come. What there is just this. And just this is a complex patterning. So we open ourselves to this and let's see. So that's a description of how the Dharmakaya leads to the Sambhogakaya, leads to the Nirmanakaya. The Nirmanakaya is within the lucidity of the Sambhogakaya, which is within the openness of the Dharmakaya. There are many, many technical terms in Buddhism. And it's very important not to turn these into descriptions of essences or substances. We want to explore the Dharma teachings as a kind of self-massage or self-shiatsu. We find the knotted points in ourselves and we rub the Dharma into these points so that here and now becomes not just some funny idea, but something we live. So, in brief summary, dualistic consciousness is constellated around the delusion of an isolated individual self. And unborn awareness manifests without manifesting in its unborn integrity. By staying close to the immediate actuality of your life, this will become clear. It's not something to think about a lot. It's not something to worry about or analyze. I respond. We have hands which are so marvelous. We can even eat with chopsticks. We can eat with our hands. We can eat with knife and fork. All of these potentials exist in the fact that our hand is open and empty, and will come into momentary formation according to whether we have knife and fork or chopsticks. So this is how it is. We are responsive. Without any essence, just flowing out and flowing out always. Receiving and responding. So this is our first Zoom meeting for this year. I hope the year will go well, that we all stay healthy and able to meet again. And our little world expanding today with Roika translating into Romanian and Mustafa translating into Turkish. Through participation, we have more connectivity. This is wonderful. There is nothing secret about Dzogchen, but it is hidden from us if we start in the wrong place. The ego cannot become enlightened because the ego is the manifestation of unenlightenment. Enlightenment is the intrinsic clarity of the mind itself. So, like the texts say, if you take a piece of coal, even if you wash it every day for a year, it won't become chalk. Coal is coal, chalk is chalk. You have Buddha nature and you have ego. Stop washing your ego. It's not going to become Buddha nature. Keep looking until your Buddha nature becomes clear to you. It's already there. Okay, so now we come to the end. And we have various other meetings lined up for the year. So I hope you all have a good time in the interim. And we have many resources now available on the website. So please make use of them. And hopefully we'll meet sometime. So, big hello and big goodbye. Much happiness to you all, and may we benefit all sentient beings. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Arrivederci,
Bye-bye.
grazie.
Obrigada.
James, thank you.
Bye, James.
Again, thank you to all our translators.
Dank aan
Thank
alle
you.
übersetzer.
Thank you, everybody.
Grazie, buon anno.
Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Mustafa.
Thank you so much.